Hey everyone, it's in Future here with a ZOIA patch breakdown slash manual video, I guess. So I'll be honest, I haven't used the ZOIA in quite a bit, and it was standing on the side of my desk, kind of shaming me because I hadn't used it in a while. So I was thinking, what can I do with the ZOIA? And I couldn't really come up with anything good until I was in the shower, and I kind of got on this idea that maybe if you're a singer-songwriter, it could be cool to have a ZOIA that is just your everything pedal, mini pedal board thing where you can just put it in your bag, take a guitar with you, and just that's everything you bring with you. And it sounded like an enticing idea, but I already did something kind of similar with the 3 switches, 6 states thing, but I wanted something a little simpler. So this is 1 switch, 3 states. So that's different. So let's just quickly go through the demo, and then I will show you how to use it, because it's made to be fairly user-friendly. So just dry guitar. Right. Now if we turn on the ZOIA. This is the first sound I hooked up. It's just a simple delay. Now I can double tap the left switch. For a slower delay. With a healthy dose of flanger. And if I triple tap, we get some fuzz with flanger. Now you can tap in any order, so you can double tap from here, single tap. Now because we only have 1 delay line, you will get that delay line time thing. So that's quite fun. So how does this patch work and how can you use it? Well, this is your main kind of mod matrix interface, and this works pretty much like a synthesizer mod interface. So at the top here we have our input, and here we have our 3 states. And you can simply follow the signal on this page. So for instance, the first state moves from here to there. And if we tap here, this is our delay input. Now I've used the VCA here just so I have the controls here, which is handy. So we can kind of follow the signal along. So state 1 goes into the delay. Then out of the delay state 1, so these are our outputs. This is the first output. And it goes into mixer 1, which is the output of the pedal. If we look at state 2, we can see that it runs to here. This is our get back you flanger input. We can follow that again to the second output. That goes into the delay. And from there we can follow it. The second output goes to the mixer, which means to the out of the pedal. And our third state goes into the fuzz. Again, output 3, because we're in the third state, goes into the flanger. And then from the flanger, it goes to the mixer. And if you want to change any of these routings, you can simply just adjust it. So if, for instance, we want our first state to just be fuzz, so now we have delay, what we can actually do is we can just remove this cable. Now if we want to be particularly neat about it, we can also delete this cable. Now we can take our first output, route it straight to the fuzz, and take output 1 from the fuzz. So that's here. Send that to the output of the pedal. Now state 1 is just the fuzz. We still have this state. Now if you want to change any of these effects, if for instance you're not interested in having a delay, a fuzz and a flanger, you can of course change those effects. I've made that pretty simple, I think. In our pages we actually have a page for every effect. So let's go to our delay, for instance. This is our delay effect. You can ignore this bit. The only interesting thing here is there's a bank of CVs here which you can send to your parameters. So you can change a effect parameter for every state. So here we're changing the delay in state 2 and not in state 1 and 3. So if we take our delay, for instance, it receives an input from the first page and the output goes to this VCA. So if for instance I wanted to change out the delay, I would delete the delay. I can just take any, this is awkward, effect module. Let's go for a, I don't know, ghost reverb. Why not? I can just connect this to the output. Now the only tricky thing here is that I need to connect the input. So I'm going to take the input, going to move to this page, and the input is this back end of the VCA. So now I have a reverb in slot 1. And I can of course change any of the parameters. Like normal. And now any effect that is patched to the first lane will have a reverb instead of a delay. And I believe that so now we have a flanger reverb combo. Technically you're not limited to just these 3 effects, but because I want to keep it on one page, that is kind of the limitation I set for myself. If you want to have more effects, you can just recreate this page and add more effects to taste. So that's basically these pages, 1 page per effect, so you can mess around with some effect lanes in everything, whatever you want to do. Page 0 is just the switching mechanism. We're going to ignore it for a second. And we also have an I/O page. You don't have to do all that much here. We have the input of the pedal here, the output of the pedal there. And the input chain is a gate followed by a compressor. And on the output there's a cabinet sim. You can play around with that if you want to. And that's basically all you need to know to use this patch. Now I also wanted to quickly go into the how this patch works thing, because I'm pretty proud of how this works. It's not particularly tricky, but it took me a second to figure out. So we're actually exploiting a little quirk of the ZOIA here. And that's the quirk that the sequencer, when reset, doesn't reset until it receives a trigger, which is something I didn't know until I started working on this patch. So that's something I learned. So essentially what we're doing here is we're just using the trigger here to advance a sequencer. So this is the stomp switch in. The stomp switch in goes to a in-out switch, and this has 3 channels because we're working with 3 states, and it also goes into the sequencer. So if you pay close attention to the sequencer, it's at state 1 right now. If I tap it again, it goes to the second. And if I tap it 3 times, it goes to the third and stays there. Now, aside from advancing this step, what we're also doing is resetting the sequencer. So what you will see is that we're outputting here, but we're also outputting to a delay, and this delay resets the sequencer. This delay also triggers a sample and hold, and the sample and hold, it's a little bit of a tricky sequence, actually takes one of the 3 values for a 0, a just over half, and a 1, and these are the 3 states. If you have a channel selector and you have 3 outputs, the 0 will make sure the channels are set to 0, the half will ensure that it's set to channel 2, and 1 will ensure it's set to channel 3. And this is actually sent to all those little top blocks to make sure that every page is set to the right channel. It's a little bit hacky, but it actually works really well. And because this sequencer doesn't loop, if I were to press it 4 or 5 times, it will still go to channel 3. You can set the speed at which you have to press the button here in the delay. So if the delay is set to 1 second, you need to press the button however many times you want within that time. I think a second is about right. It also means that any switch will always take a second, because that's the time it takes for the delay to trigger the sample and hold. So for instance, we press 2 times, it takes a second, triggers the sample and hold. If we press 3 times, it takes a second, and it triggers that sample and hold. So that's our sample and hold. So that's your time delay, and I think a second is about right, especially if you're working with your foot. You're unlikely to tap it faster than that. Because I'm using my hands, of course, it's a little bit easier. So that's the main switching methodology. If you're not into that stuff, you can just ignore it, and you can just mainly play around with this page, a little bit with this page, and that's the micro modular switcher patch. It's not super flashy, but it's pretty functional. So yeah, if there are any questions about it, let me know, drop a comment, and yeah, maybe I can help you out. Anyways, that's it for me. Have fun.